Welcome back, everybody. And now another issue, another subject, one that is not as upsetting, that in fact I can talk about without getting anguished over. This happened yesterday. It was a press conference in which we graded the four networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, on their diversity initiatives. You will remember that in the year 2000, the National Latino Media Council, of which we at the National Hispanic Media Coalition are a part, 17 organizations strong now, along with the NAACP, along with the National Asian Pacific American Media Coalition, and Indians in Film and Television. We all got together, we built this incredible coalition, and we signed these memorandums with ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox so that they would diversify not only their workforce in front and in back of camera, but also open up procurement opportunities for Latinos and other people of color. They would also do better in their programming, they would also do better in their governance, and they would also do better in their philanthropy. All of this are things that we look at throughout the year. We meet with the network chiefs many times during the year, and then once a year in November we give them a letter grade on their diversity performance. So this took place yesterday, and here is what we had to say. Here's what we had to say, and here are the grades from the different groups. First of all, we have Sunny Skyhawk, who, as many of you know, is the chairperson of the Indians in Film and Television.
American Indians in Film and Television.
Correction. American Indians in Film and Television. Next to him, we have the spokesperson for the same organization, and that is Mark Reed, and he will be the one giving their statement. Next to them, here immediately to my right, we have former Congressman Esteban Torres, who happens to be the chair of the National Latino Media Council. To my immediate left, we have Karen Arasaki, who is carrying two hats today, wearing two hats today. She is the president and executive director of the Asian American Justice Center. At the same time, she's also the chair of the National Asian Pacific American Media Coalition. The first one to give us their statement will be Congressman Esteban Torres from the National Latino Media Council. Esteban?
What is very significant about ABC, as it continues to attempt to bring to the screen American Latino themed programming, as well as increasing deals with Latino producers and attaching Latino actors to new projects that don't necessarily have a Latino theme to them. And this is exactly what you do if you're going to increase employment numbers and diverse programming. We want to thank ABC for their forward thinking, for their openness in providing all the relevant data that's so important to provide a grade for them.
Now let me call upon Karen Arasaki from the Asian Pacific American Media Coalition, and I have to do something here, okay? Please.
Thank you. I'm growing in stature. Now, again, while we've seen some improvement for Asian Americans actors, a few more quality roles, it's still too limited in its scope, particularly given the fact that the networks have now been working on this issue for 8 years. We're deeply concerned about the lack of commitment to development deals. It's been now 13 years since the groundbreaking sitcom All American Girl, which featured Margaret Cho and an Asian American family. 13 years. We're calling on the networks to make a much more serious investment in developing shows by and around Asian American talent so that we can change that and end the drought on Asian Americans leading in shows on prime time. Thank you.
The American Indian in Film and Television, Mark Reed. And before I forget, I always forget to do this, I want to thank AFTRA for hosting us this morning, as they have done for the last 8 years. This leadership has been always very, very complimentary. They've been really great about hosting us. We thank you very deeply.
Thank you, Alex. The American Indian remains underrepresented and misunderstood in the 21st century. We are the invisible American. The networks all acknowledge this exclusion and have expressed a desire to correct the invisibility of the American Indian. I think the grades are self-explanatory. I don't need to go through them. The actors, you know, have only seen the only increase. Pretty much everything else has remained the same as the failing grade, and shown by the underrepresentation of the American Indian on camera.
And as you know, the NAACP is not an official part of this press conference, but as you know, we work very closely together. We continue to support one another. I'm going to ask Vic Bullock, do you have a moment? I know you're eager to leave, but I want you to come up to the podium for a moment.
I think it's important, and I know I don't mean to catch anybody else off guard because we've been at some conferences together, and Alex and I definitely had this conversation. We think it's important, and I think it's appropriate that we're here at AFTRA, that as the guild and union contracts are coming up for renegotiation, that the membership within those organizations need to question their leadership and put the issue of diversity front and center and part of those negotiations.
When you look at who's running things, who's in charge, who's behind, who owns these companies, does it ever surprise you that you keep coming up?
Minority ownership is very important to us. And the reason that it's so important is because every study shows that when you have minority ownership, you have more diversity of programming. So there's no question about that. But who can afford the billions of dollars that it takes to buy properties? We're in that mega billion-dollar range now to buy any kind of a property. So many of the Latino and non-Latino, but other people of color entrepreneurs can't get into the ballgame. So that is a big fight that is at the FCC right now, as you know, and we want to make it a minority issue as well. Because unless it becomes a minority issue, we're never going to have those properties, and the diversification that we see at the corporate level is not going to be what we would like it to be unless we have diversity ownership too. So there you have it, folks. Highlights of yesterday's press conference that was held at AFTRA headquarters here in Los Angeles. If you want to know exactly what the grades were for each and every one of the 4 networks by all 3 ethnic groups that participated in the press conference, you will see a button right below me. Hit that button and it'll take you directly to where those report card grades are at. Also, it will also have the words that were said by each one of the leaders and spokespersons for the different groups involved. Bueno, hasta la siguiente. Nos vemos. Adiós.